Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Jesper for sending in some awesome pictures of his Steel Legion 114th Grenadiers. I absolutely love this army. This colour scheme is incredible. I love all the little conversions and characterizations and just little bits that have been done to make all these models look really awesome. I mean, that banner is fantastic. The conversions to the bullgrins just look amazing. The wire wrapped around the bullgrin walls, just great. The weathering on the vehicles, the basing. I know it seems crazy, but the basing it's just so good. So thank you for sending these pictures in, Jesper. You have done the Steel Legion proud. Your army looks fantastic. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, please put them on my Facebook page. There'll be a link down in the description below. Or you can email them to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com. And again, the email address will be down in the description below. But without further ado, let's crack on with today's video. So for those of you that aren't aware, there is a regular post that is done on the Warhammer competitive subreddit, and it's called Meta Mondays. And it's where an absolutely fantastic user who does this entirely off his own back, no pay, no rewards or anything, JCMS85, compiles all the data from the GT size events and higher. So that's things like it's got to have 5 games, a minimum of 28 players, it's got to be on best coast pairings, all that kind of stuff. And he gathers all that data together and then uses it to work out like the win rates of each faction. Now, this week's post, this week's Meta Monday, what happened was not only did he put together this week's results, but he back compiled it and he took a look at the last month in general. Okay, and by doing that and looking at the statistics, the results came in, and officially over the last month at grand tournament sized events or higher, Imperial Guard Astra Militarum have had the worst win rate. We're actually currently sitting at, I believe it's really low. We're currently sitting at a 33% win rate. And I believe if you actually do some other analysis, it's actually potentially might be as low as 28%. But we're looking at about a 33% win rate from competitive games. Now, if you look at the number of players that have played over the last month, you've had 26 registered Astra Militarum players. They've had 43 wins out of all their games, and they've played 131 competitive tournament games. Well, grand tournament. Now, bear in mind, this doesn't take into account, from what I understand, it doesn't take into account smaller events like what are called road trader tournaments. So if it's only a one-dayer, these statistics don't reflect that. So that's just something to be aware of. Okay. Now that is interesting. That is interesting. Now it's also sad, but I think what those statistics reflect is what we're all feeling at the moment as Guard players, which is it's tough out there. I think the majority of Guard players will tell you if they take their traditional Guard army, their pride and joy, and they take it to a game, even a casual game, that they're struggling. That most people seem to be losing their games, and you have to really, almost throw away the theme of your army in order to try and do well. I will use myself as an example. I have played many games of 9th edition 40k. The majority of those games, I've had to play a faction and a playstyle that traditionally I have not favoured. Normally, I would run pure infantry, or I would run a nice hybrid guard list of tanks and infantry. But I have tried that in tournament practice and in a tournament game, and in an actual tournament, and it just doesn't work. Okay, it just doesn't seem that you ever have enough working parts for it to work right, and it just feels very underwhelming. And I've had to switch my playstyle to Scions. Of course, you guys are going to be like, he's banging on about those bloody Scions again. I won't. I promise I won't. That's it. I know what some of you will be thinking. So I've had to change my playstyle quite dramatically, and so I'm not really playing Guard anymore. Okay, let's actually get that elephant out of the room. I'm not playing what you would call a traditional Imperial Guard army. I am playing a niche, a sub-faction within the Imperial Guard, which is Militarum Tempestatus. At one point, they had their own codex. Okay, that's how sub-faction, that's how niche they are. And that is what I've had to do in order to achieve tournament success. And that is what other Guard players have had to do in order to achieve tournament success. And when you look at competitive Guard armies that are out there now, you're seeing, if we look, you're seeing one of two things. You're basically seeing Scion heavy armies, really heavy, like the way I've been running it, or you're seeing armies which are basically leaning on Scions as a bit of a crutch. So, for example, there's a list that I'm going to be doing a list analysis of later, which has been doing well, which is 3 tank commanders, 2 full payload manticores, some bare bones, like 3 bare bones infantry squads, 3 bare bones Scion squads, and then like 5 Torx primes, Dakar primes. Okay, now that might be a Guard army, but it certainly isn't a traditional Guard army. It's certainly not a classic, a quintessential Guard army. What that is basically a selection of just the best units, whether they work or in terms of lore or theme, whether they work, that's not even in consideration anymore. It's just 5 Torx primes, because we know Torx primes are probably some of the best anti-hawk limbs we've got. 3 tank commanders, because we know they're some of the best punch units we've got. 2 full payload manticores, because they're some of the best indirect fire we've got. And then some bare bones, absolute bog standard infantry for just being action monkeys. Okay? And that is where Guard is at the moment. And that is what you have to do as a Guard player, that's what you feel like you have to do if you want to win. Okay, so if we look at that, if we accept that the win rates are very low, and that in order to do well with Guard, you have to take these, either this sub-faction, which is pure Scions, or you need to basically take this Frankenstein, it's a very powerful list, don't get me wrong, I'm not criticising it when I call it this, it's a term of endearment, I promise, this Frankenstein patchwork conglomeration of just good units but no soul to it, then why are Guards still doing poorly? Okay, because you have players who are going 4-1 at tournaments with that style list. You've got players like myself, not to brag or big-headed, just statistics, players like myself who have currently got about a 60 to 66% win rate at competitive games with my Scions, where the only armies that I don't seem to be able to handle, or the only army I don't really seem to have a chance against, is Dark Elder. That's just what I just can't seem to break through to them at the moment. Why, if those options are available, why is Guard seeing such a low win rate? Okay, and I think if we're going to be honest about this, and this is also going to sound like a criticism, but it's not. Okay, so I'm going to set this up now. What I'm going to say now is why I love the Imperial Guard, and why I love, with my heart and soul, the Guard community. And we've talked about this in the past, but there is, for some factions in 40k, there is a certain type of player that picks them up, and there are good examples of this, and there are bad examples of this. Imperial Guard players, the Imperial Guard community is a good example of this. Okay. Most Imperial Guard players, when they pick up the army, they're not picking it up because they're trying to be the best in the game. And they will be aware of other things that they can take, like Bulgrins, which are really, really powerful. But they will still choose not to take those units. Because a lot of the time, Imperial Guard players want their army to have character, to have soul, to have a theme. That's what Guard players do. That's what we like to do. We don't want to just turn up with, 3 Volkite Contempt Dreadnoughts and then just this random conglomeration of a mix of, just units that, whilst make sense, whilst a good themselves don't make sense. I think in a Guard player's mind, your army has to kind of make sense. So if you look at my Guard armies, you've got my Steel Legion, they've all got chimeras and tanks, and there's a theme. And I don't take not tanks or chimeras. And even though I know it'd be more competitive, I still haven't got round to sorting those two full payload manticores out yet, because that doesn't go with the fluff of the army that I'm building there. And I will do, because I want them to be competitive, but I have to get round to like being okay with that in my head canon. And I think that is what a lot of Guard players are still doing. Brave, beautiful bastards to a man, all of them. I think most Guard players would rather use an army which they know isn't as powerful, but one that they love. One that they put their heart and soul into. I mean, look at this example of the pictures that we're seeing right now. You know, this army that Jesper sent in. This is clearly a labour of love. No one's taking Baneblade chassis anymore. No one's doing that, but there's two in this army. You know, Baneblades have never been good. Even when you could fit 5 of them in a list in 8th edition, they still weren't good. They were just a meme and would catch some people out. But how come like every Guard player has a Baneblade, even when they've never, you know, not everyone's got a Baneblade, but you know what I mean? A lot of Guard players have Baneblades or Baneblade type units, even though they know they're terrible, because they're cool. Okay? And so I think fundamentally that is why the Guard win rate is so low. Okay? But I think that the Guard Codex has the tools to do competitiveness. We have those tools. We have pure scions. But not everyone wants to be a pure scion commander. In fact, most people don't want to be. That's why they're a niche army. And most people don't want to run like 1 billion infantry. And most people, you know, most people like to run a mixed combined arms Guard force. They want a bit of everything. To be fair, most Guard players, probably I would say the most common type of Guard player out there is the tank commander. I don't mean the unit, I mean the type of player. Okay? A lot of Guard players are treadheads. Okay? Because they're cool. Tanks are cool, right? So, this is why, I know it's a long-winded way around of saying it, but that is why I believe that the Guard win rate is low. Because most Guard players are not willing to compromise their moral integrity. Not that, you know, they've got a theme and that's what they want to run, and they are a Guard player and they have an army, and that's what, and you know, that army might be very extensive, but that's what they like to run, and so god damn it, by the Emperor, that's what they're going to run. And that's what I think, long, roundabout way, it is meant to be a backhanded compliment to everyone who watches this video as a Guard player. You know, this is why I love this community. Because most Guard players, what they will do is they will build a list with some totally self-imposed restrictions on it. You know, totally self-imposed. I want to run an all-tank Guard army. That's my theme. And it's like, okay, but no one's making you do that. Yeah, I know no one's making me do it, but I want to do it. But you know there's more competitive ways of doing it. Yeah, I know I could run something more competitive. But I want to run the best army I can run on this theme. That's what I want to do, Mr. Dark Elder player. So that's what I'm goddamn well going to do. That's how I feel most Guard players work. And so what I think we're seeing, and why are we seeing some factions which are so, you know, so much more dominant? Yes, absolutely, it comes down to power. It comes down to power, it comes down to codex group and all that kind of stuff. But I think for the factions that you tend to see which are kind of like at the bottom at the moment, what you're just seeing is dedicated members of that community, the hardcore, the Iron Guard, the long beards, the people that will turn up to events even though they don't get the face smashed every single time, but they just like running their army at events. Those people are just turning up and they're representing, and they're doing exactly what they should be doing. You know, they are just representing and they're having fun and they are playing games. And those factions which are very, very powerful, like Admech, like Dark Elder, for example, those factions are simply more popular at the moment, because that's where, for lack of a better term, the more fickle players are going. Fickle might be a bit of an insult. I don't really mean it as an insult. It's the wrong term. The players that don't really care about what army they're playing, they just want to win. The more win at all cost players, And again, whack can be used as a bit of like a slur, a bit of a dirty word in the 40k community. Oh, you're a fucking whacker. But no, I actually have no issue with the term win at all costs. Like, it's just a kind of player. It's just a type of player, and like, that's fine, you know? But even but going back to this just to summarise this one point that I'm making about why the guard community is doing badly, but also why I love it even though we're doing badly, is look at, I'll use myself as an example. Okay, oh, he's always talking about himself, this Mordian glory guy, what selfish bastard. I know, but bear with me. I want to run the best army that I can run as an Imperial Guard player. But straight away, I've put a restriction on myself there. Because if I wanted to go to an event and win a one day, I would just go and borrow my brother's Dark Elder army and just win it. Okay, that's what I do. It's as simple as that. But I won't do it. I will still put that self-imposed restriction on myself, which is I want to win, but with the best guard army I can win with. And that's still a restriction, but that just shows the mentality of the guard player. Of, you know, that it's just you're just in this faction because this is the faction you're going to be in. Like, this is just, you're just a guard player. It's in your soul. It's in your core. Core keyword, guard player. That's what we all have. So give yourselves all a pat on the back. And I know it seems a bit sanctimonious and a bit wanky video. I get that, but I think that explains more than anything why the guard win rate is so low. Look at the grand tournament I went to. There was me who had a guard army, and there was one other guard player that turned up. And he had a pure tank company, and he won best painted, but he also won the wooden spoon. Okay, because you know his army was a labour of love. You know, he turned up like a Bane sword, which I think statistically is like the worst of the super heavies you can pick. He didn't care. He likes Bane swords. He's got a Bane sword. He could have used it as a shadow sword. No one would have known the difference. But he would have known the difference. He doesn't like shadow swords. He likes Bane swords. Brave, beautiful motherfucker. My hero. Better guard player than I am. I sold out. I went and got dark, what was going to call dark science. I went and got, jumped on the Scion bandwagon. It's a more dedicated guard player than I am. You know, props to him. Genuinely mean it, heartfelt. Anyway, we'll leave that video here. You know, it's just an interesting analysis, just my thoughts on it. It's a Friday video, guys. Let me know what you guys think. You know, let me know. Would you care if we were top tier? You know, in a funny sort of way, you know, and again, I'm happy for people to criticise me on this. You know, but I feel like if Guard was top tier, then it would feel like kind of like all these bandwagoners jumping on. Do you know what I mean? It's weird. Whilst I hate Guard feeling like they're weak, you know, I wouldn't want us to be like the Dark Elder community, which has gone from like a 6% faction popularity to like a 30% faction popularity or something crazy. You know, I wouldn't want that either. You know, guard players are guard players. That's what I like. You know, when you talk, it's like when you talk to an orc player. You always know what you're in for with an orc player. It's going to be a good time. It's like when you talk to a guard player, you always know that guy is just going to be super into his military history and all that kind of stuff. You just know it. That's why he's a guard player, man. That's what he loves. He loves like army and military and shit. That's why he's using normal human military in a game that lets you run like anything you could possibly want. It's a crazy, wacky game, and guard players are still picking humans, but you know what you're going to get. And you know if you're going to get a Tau player, then well, you know. I don't want to say anything horrible, but you know, Tau players. You know, I don't care if Tau are now considered terrible. I would rather that the Tau were down here in the gutter as long as it meant the Tau players were suffering. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed what you've heard here today, please consider heading on over to my Patreon page. There will be a link down in the description below. Huge thank you to all the current Patreon supporters. You guys are fantastic. It is thanks to the Patreon supporters, that I'm able to go to all these events and that I'm able to sell out and get a Scion army up and running really quickly. It's thanks to them that I'm able to keep the Guard sort of on the cutting edge, go to the front line, report on the meta, bring the lessons back, and you guys can absorb this information. Wouldn't be able to do it without their support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, you amazing Patreon beautiful bastards. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.